quick tip. Been meaning to do a video for a while now. It's been a couple weeks, but I've been, you know, obviously we've been busy with 20 group and university and things that have been coming up. But the thing I wanted to talk about, is had a dealer reaching out, part of one of our groups that wanted to know what my strategy or what my thoughts are on the upcoming strike and what it can mean to, used car operations. They had a game plan they're thinking about. They just wanted to kind of run it by me and see what my thoughts are. Now, I've done other videos about the common trending that we see in the market with shopper indexes and when does it peak in the tax season and it drops down through the spring and up through the summer, back all the way down through December, and how wholesale. I've shared those videos before, so I don't know necessarily if I want to get tied up into those metrics. I can show it to you exactly again what where I'm getting my thoughts from, but really it comes down to, I think, the overall economy. So here we are now. Today happens to be September 12th, and by the 14th UAE could be striking. And so what I have a feeling of is everybody's going to have the FOMO or fear of missing out, based on what happened through COVID when there was a shortage of new cars being able to be produced based on part shortage and so forth, and getting behind. And I mentioned it, I think, a couple times before that, I think if there is a strike, here's where my thoughts are. I think they will strike. My prediction or guess, is best thing to say, is I don't think it goes more than 2 months. I've mentioned this before too. I think there's probably 2 months of supply out there. Okay. I think there's, meaning there's already, fields of cars, parking lots of already manufactured cars that are out there. So I think, if the transporters still transport cars and not worry about going over the picket line, if they still transport cars, there's still a month or two supply probably already sitting out there waiting to come to dealerships still. And then, just like here, this is, we've had multiple dealers here at the 20 group talking about how they can't get the cars out of Mexico and stuff. It's taking forever, months. So there's still vehicles waiting to be delivered to dealerships that are already made. The reason why I say 2 months, because you start running into the holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and, they don't get paid a ton when they're on strike. They still get money, but it's not a lot of money, and I think it pinches them a little bit tighter. They're already made some progress on increase in pay and stuff, so they might meet somewhere before the strike happens. Glenn Lundy predicted that they won't be a strike. I do think it'll happen less than 2 months of it being going on. And so in the meantime, what's going to happen is you're going to get a false positive in wholesale. Okay. Now, wholesale has not decreased as much as it was doing before. It was a little bit of a stabilization of the wholesale values. But the reason why there was an uptick at the end of July, beginning of September, where there was a little bit of an uptick in business. We picked it up around July 25th, looking at the last 2 weeks of sale rate. It's when we had a little bit of an uptick in dealers volume, and shopper index picked up a little bit. And that's typical, that we see July, August, or August, September, a little bit of uptick in activity on inventory. So that drove wholesale values up, but they're still down, and they're going to continue to go down. But if the strike happens, here's what I think is a lot of managers are going to scramble and go out and buy everything they can to try to stock up, because there's going to be a shortage of new cars, and the values are going to go back up again. And it's all fine and dandy if the economy's there, and it's not. We got highest inflation. We got gas prices continue to decline. We got repossessions happening on inventory on cars. We've got the housing market on teetering. And in the meantime, we got student loans that are going to be due in October here, where millions of people can't afford because they can barely afford what they got going on now. Okay. So, just because we go to the lane, and the lane, what I think is people are going to go to the lane, they're going to start buying up cars, wholesale goes up, other people are going to fear they're missing out, they're going to go buy and stock up, and then we're going to end up if the economy's there not to pick up the slack, and then these values are false. It's a false positive increase in wholesale values, but it's false because I don't think you're going to be able to turn around and ask a premium for these cars. And again, I think consumers are done. They're done. They're not going to be there to overpay for something that they don't need. Now, if somebody needs a car, then they're going to do what they can. But again, there's plenty of new cars out there. There's double the amount of new cars availability now than it was this time last year. So there's I understand certain OEMs, Hondas, Toyotas, certain manufacturers still have a lack of inventory, but these other manufacturers don't. And so if the strike happens and you see this wholesale values upticking, people scrambling to buy cars, I wouldn't get tied up in that. Matter of fact, if you happen to have an aging policy or aging issue right now, which a lot of dealers are, and they're losing gross on these cars, I might give it a week or two of the overreaction to the market and probably get rid of those wholesale cars to a higher value, because again, I don't think you're going to get it on the retailing, but you might be able to throw out there in car offer or MMR or auctions and see if you can get some bids on those cars and get off of them. Now, the other thing I said to this dealer group, so that's my prediction, and I could show you all the stats. I've done them in other videos if you want to watch it, but as far as shopper activity volume, wholesale sold percentages, we're still at a 49% sale rate at the lane, which is way lower than typical this time of year. And it continues to drop traditionally through the end of this year, to the end of every year. And so if it's already at 49, what's going to look like in December, other than, again, everybody running the lane? And what will happen is if values start taking up a bit, guess what? The floors are probably going to get dropped, and people are going to go ahead and let these cars go so they can get off of them as fast as possible. I just wouldn't want to own these cars come December and January. That's just my point of view. Now, the only way that overstocking, preparing for this strike would work for you, in my mind, is if the strike lasts all the way to tax season, okay, February, March. Then you might have something, right? And you might be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat, but how much more money are you going to get? $1,000 or $2,000 a car? And how much it costs you in holding cost? So when I told this dealer that, and they're saying, their thought was to go over and buy, and I said, you can do whatever you want. I'm just guessing here, but statistically and historically, I have a lot of data backing this up. One, but two is, I think I told him, if you're lean and clean, that's the thing. You get to have fun with this. You can maybe extend yourself, buy some extra cars. I said I wouldn't go more than 10, 15% than I typically would carry to sell. Again, our discipline is you got 100 cars, let's sell 100 cars. A lot of good of our best stores are 100 cars, sell 150 plus. Now, if you're one of those dealers and disciplined enough to make adjustments quick and get off a car once you realize you made a mistake, go ahead. Instead of stocking 100, selling 150, stock 125, 130, and maybe get up to 180 and make some money there. Try it. But if you're not clean and if you're not disciplined, I wouldn't be worried. If you're not even selling what you're carrying, I wouldn't worry about overstocking and overpaying for stuff. It looks like we got a comment on here too as I'm talking live. Jason, looks like UAW is going to strike. Adam here on LinkedIn. End of the week. If that happens, the next few months are going to see a spike in used car values and a steep decline in new inventory. The environment is red hot for dealerships to be looking for efficiency ways to buy more used cars. So, here, I think dealers are going to run out and scramble to buy cars, which, again, any normal situation, if the economy was strong, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Stock up. Economy's not there, though. Again, just go look at the headlines. We're hemorrhaging on a borderline disaster of a recession, depression type scenarios, even though some people say it's not happening, or statistically the numbers have gone down to like 15% that we're going to hit a recession. That's not the underlying current, though. I'm just telling you, we talk to enough dealerships and see enough volume and transitions of leads, counts decreasing, and again, all these other headlines are starting to line things up. Somebody commented, it seems like it's a pre-2007 type metrics that we're starting to see here. So again, in my eyes, I just get lean and clean. If the wholesale values go up and you got an aging problem, you're carrying 100, selling 60. I would start popping away those age cars and let those other dealers have it, because come November and December, if they still holding these cars and the strike's over and manufacturers back, and guess what? Incentives are going to be out there. You got end of the year clearance events for OEMs and stuff. And I just don't see, and again, I could be wrong. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a UAE, I'm not there as a union member and where they're going to be holding their ground, but I could imagine, they're not going to want to be sacrificing too much going to holiday season and stuff. And there's going to be a middle ground found, I would say, pretty quick. Again, less than 2 months. So at 2 months is a month's supply, if you want every car gone in 60 days. So, yes, it's going to get tricky. No one knows what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just speculating, but based on a lot of data that I've seen. Again, if the truckers can still transport cars, there's probably a month or two of already built out cars. So if the strike lasts a month, they're going to get back in there and start building it up. And even if that happens and they got 2 months behind a build out, again, there's twice as many cars out there on new cars. And volume wise, I think there's plenty of inventory there if things did have to shutter for a month or two, because if there's a 20% drop in volume of new cars being produced, there's 20 to 30% less people out there looking for it. And so it kind of does that stabilization again. But I guarantee you, if it's short-lived and they start cranking up production, I know Ford start doing 3 shifts to crank up productions, knowing that this might be coming. Again, I stay lean and clean. Wait a week or two. If the strike does happen, wholesale starts shooting up, I would get off your age cars, either wholesale or retail. I don't think you're going to be having customers willing to overpay for these cars any longer. So it's going to be tricky. I know good cars are hard to find. I told them, keep buying, man. Don't stop buying. You always want to buy the right car, nonstop. Always buy the right car. But just don't go out there buy inventory to have inventory in hopes that you can, take advantage of a bubble that probably ain't going to happen. I hope this tip was helpful. You can put in the comments if you agree with me or not, what your thoughts are, what you're going to plan on doing with your inventory. And we'll circle back next week and see what happens. Talk to you later. Thanks.